Welcome, everyone. Welcome, media, for our event where everyone. Welcome, media, for mechanism is ready to present for our event where of our work. Everyone, welcome, media. Okay. My name is Ramona Dominiciu. I am a peasant from Romania, and I am a part of the coordination committee of the civil society mechanism, representing smallholders, farmers, smallholders, family farmers, and I'm very happy to start our presentation by offering a broader view of the context and a bit of the content of the report that we're launching today. It's a report regarding the use and the implementation of the right to food, and it's our contribution of civil society to the first intergovernmental global effort to monitor national implementation of the right to food. It's an assessment that had a very rich participation of civil society groups and organizations. As you will see, it's different from what governments say. It speaks reality from the ground, and it speaks about food crisis that is increasing. As the right to food at the moment is even publicly acknowledged in the last SOFI report, in the last State of Food Security and the Nutrition report of 2018, is, I was saying, the most violated human right, the right to food. According to the report that I mentioned, the SOFI report, the number of undernourished and food insecure is growing. It's getting to a chronic stage. It increased to nearly 821 million people in 2017. And it's quite alarming because looking at what governments reaffirmed and promised us years back, we're going backwards. Under no circumstances we're advancing. I recall that in 1996, at the World Food Summit, governments of the United Nations reaffirmed their commitment for the right to food, and to break it down to reduce it by half, to reach 420 million by 2016. And look at us today in 2018 with over double the amount of undernourished and food insecure. It's important for us because we smallholder and family farmers, pastoralists, landless, agricultural and food workers, consumers, urban food insecure, and NGOs. We have all we are all contributing to production of food at global level. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, 70% of the food produced worldwide comes from us. These food producers constituencies that are working together here in Rome to speak out and to come up with solutions to stop the world hunger. We, in the same time, suffer from food insecurity, and we are in the front line of the climate change effects and also conflicts. So it's essential that we are part of the solutions, of the discussions with governments and the United Nations bodies to cooperate, to put at the center the interests of the affected communities, and to work together towards solutions. For us, the human right, the right to food, is it's because we always it's always good to remind ourselves what is the right to food. It's the right of people to feed themselves in a dignified way with sufficient food, with adequate nutrition. It doesn't mean that the right to food means that states provide food for the people. It's a right that has to enable smallholders to have access to resources and to means of production to ensure this food security, and even further food sovereignty. I come from Romania. It's in Eastern Europe. It's in the global developed part of the world. And we are suffering from land grabbing, from heavy effects of migration. There is still inequalities in our areas, even in the north. We're not in a position to school the rest of the world about realization of the right to food, because even in the global north, this right is systematically and systemically violated. And this report extensively speaks about this problem as well. This report comes also in a context of increased global food crisis, as the numbers speak, but also in a context where the CFS, the space that has reformed years back and has one of the most inclusive and participatory and transparent processes of negotiation and production of guidelines for food for the most key issues that affect the right to food, that affect food security. So CFS, which, in order to avoid acronyms, is the Global Committee for Food Security, has just come out of evaluation that is raised many questions and concerns about the shrinking space of affected communities, of lowering down responsibilities, the sense of responsibilities for the countries to monitor and to promote the use and applications of the instruments, of the legal instruments that are being negotiated at this level. And but nevertheless, the report also shows positive examples of countries who have advanced in the realization of the right to food, who have included in national legislation at many levels, and worked with affected communities towards the realization of the right to food. I would mention a group of Portuguese-speaking countries who have done quite great work, associating also the right to food to the framework for agriculture, for the framework for family farming legislation, and but also other countries, definitely Kenya, Mexico, Nepal, Bolivia, Egypt, Ecuador, well, of course, as Portuguese-speaking countries, Brazil, Cabo Verde, so on and so forth. In the report, there are presented the cases, positive cases. In the same time, just to conclude, the right to food is not just important for the realization of itself, but also it's been an important base for building other protection instruments. And I would give here as an example the Declaration for the Rights of Peasants and other people working in rural areas that has been adopted by the Human Rights Council last month in Geneva, and that is going now towards adoption by the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Well, the right to food has been the base of elaboration of further recognition for the rights of the peasants, and yeah, we recognize that and we cherish for that reason the right to food. In terms of recommendations, there are many divided by categories, very thoughtfully put together. But our main message would be that we need governments to work together for our interest and for the interest of all people, for the realization of the right to food, and we need stronger cooperation between United Nations institutions that have human rights as objective activity, and all together to put affected communities at the center of decisions and at the center of the process for the realization of the right to food. Thank you. That will be my part. And then we continue with the delegates who are going to speak for various constituencies, and they're going to present themselves and offer the perspective to complete our message.
Muy buenos días, mi nombre es Margarita, soy del sector de la juventud, del mecanismo de la sociedad civil. Soy de una comunidad campesina indígena de Argentina, un poco para hablar de las situaciones de lo que está viviendo la juventud a nivel mundial, y sobre todo la migración por la falta de derechos de la alimentación, ¿no? Que es una base principal para nuestra vida. Siempre nosotras y nosotros decimos que la alimentación tiene que ser un derecho y no una mercancía, porque la realidad es que el 75% de los alimentos que se producen en el mundo vienen de las comunidades campesinas, de los pueblos originarios, de los pescadores. Entonces es algo que no todas y todos podemos tener ese derecho de poder alimentarnos, de poder comer todos los días, ¿no? Millones de niñas, niños y jóvenes estamos pasando una situación en el mundo, la malnutrición también que están sufriendo sobre todo nuestra niñez. Por eso una de las principales también formas de poder hacer escuchar esa voz es estando y participando en el mecanismo de la sociedad civil para poder llevar nuestra voz al CCA y que puedan los gobiernos escucharnos, ¿no? a los jóvenes, sobre todo a los jóvenes que venimos de comunidades rurales, ¿no? del campo. Hay una fuerte migración de la juventud hacia otros países, hacia otras naciones, ¿no? Esto para seguir buscando por falta de trabajo y falta de oportunidades también que se dan en el campo, ¿no? Falta de acceso a la tierra, que nos hace mucho más complicado poder tener acceso a la tierra siendo joven, porque, bueno, no se contempla, digamos, siendo joven y sobre todo también siendo mujer, ¿no? Es algo que se nos complica muchísimo poder tener nuestra propia tierra para poder producir. Hoy creemos que el rol fuerte de la juventud es poder seguir formándose y poder quedarse en el campo para poder darnos. Nosotras somos el futuro, pero sobre todo somos el presente, ¿no? Un presente que se quiere hacer escuchar, un presente que se hace escuchar, ese presente que es quién va a continuar la vida en el campo y quién va a continuar la soberanía alimentaria. Muchos de los gobiernos hablan de la seguridad alimentaria, ¿no? Pero si no se le da oportunidad a esos jóvenes, no va a ser posible ni la seguridad alimentaria ni la soberanía alimentaria, ¿no? Entonces, por eso hay que tener nuevas políticas. Nosotras tenemos propuestas de nuevas políticas, tenemos forma de poder quedarnos en el campo y poder seguir produciendo, pero eso significa que tenemos que tener otras formas de vivir en el campo, ¿no? Con derechos, sobre todo el derecho a la alimentación, pero también el derecho a la salud, el derecho a la educación, el derecho de una vida digna, el derecho del buen vivir, ¿no? Y tantas cosas que son negadas a los jóvenes rurales, ¿no? Porque creemos que hoy el campo hay muchas compañeras y compañeros que son ya de mayores, ¿no? Y que los jóvenes sobre todo salimos a buscar en otros lugares por esa falta que tenemos en nuestros territorios, ¿no? Por la oportunidad. Porque un joven hoy va a hacer una profesión y se termina quedando en la ciudad porque el campo no le está ofreciendo lo que debe ofrecerle, ¿no? Esa seguridad de poder volver al campo y de poder ser un campesino, poder ser una campesina, y de poder ser un productor y una productora, ¿no? Entonces, es trabajar fuertemente y eso también venimos en el mecanismo de la sociedad civil y en el CSA poder proponer nuevas formas de trabajar y nuevas herramientas de trabajar con la juventud, ¿no? Pudiendo darle herramientas, pudiendo darle formas de trabajar, que ya lo venimos haciendo muchos jóvenes que vivimos en nuestros territorios, ¿no? Poder frenar, ver cómo podemos frenar la migración, ¿no? Dándole esa oportunidad de que en el campo nos podamos formar, que en el campo tengamos salud, que en el campo tengamos nuestra propia vida, ¿no? Para esos alimentos que sean de mejor calidad la que vaya llegando a la ciudad, ¿no? Y que cada vez se puedan dar mercados locales para poder vender nuestra producción y poder garantizar que nuestra producción de la que hacemos en el campo pueda estar en la venta, ¿no? Y que la gente pueda consumir verduras frescas, carne fresca, ¿no? Entonces, parece que nosotros ya venimos teniendo o venimos haciendo muchas de esas acciones, poder hacer que la juventud nos podamos quedar en el campo y podamos tener una forma de formarnos, ¿no? Esa forma de estar un tiempo en aula, pero estar también un tiempo en la comunidad para que ese desarraigo no se dé, ¿no? Eso ya lo venimos haciendo, ver cómo los gobiernos empiezan a tomar esas acciones que ya están y puedan empezar a trabajar con nosotras, las organizaciones, los movimientos y las comunidades también, ¿no? Poder hacerlo en organización, no poder hacerlo en unidad. Entonces es poder garantizar, para poder garantizar la seguridad alimentaria, hay que garantizar la agroecología, hay que garantizar la soberanía alimentaria, hay que ver y hablar de una reforma agraria integral y popular, ¿no? Hay que hablar de la vuelta al campo, a donde muchas jóvenes, sus padres, sus abuelos han sido desalojados y están hoy viviendo en las grandes ciudades, ¿no? Ver cómo esa juventud que hoy está viviendo en la ciudad pueda volver al campo y pueda asegurarse de poder producir, ¿no? Ver una distribución también de la tierra, ¿no? Es algo que podemos en pequeña forma, en tierras que están desocupadas, poder ver cómo podemos hacer eso, ¿no? Poder ver cómo con la ayuda, poder ayudarnos mutuamente entre los gobiernos y la sociedad civil, ¿no? Que eso también es algo que buscamos y que los gobiernos puedan escuchar y puedan tomar muchas de las demandas y muchas de las cosas también que se han ido comprometiendo en este largo proceso que lleva el CSA y que llevan las Naciones Unidas, ¿no? No estamos contemplando, estamos muy lejos de lo que es la Agenda 2030, ¿no? Estamos muy lejos, cada vez se sigue aumentando más la migración de nuestra juventud, se sigue aumentando más la hambre en el mundo. Entonces, ver cómo podemos trabajar en unidad.
My name is Christiana Lua. I come from Lake Turkana in northern Kenya. Among the El Moro community, which is also the indigenous peoples of the area. small-scale fishing community. I am here especially to talk on behalf of the small-scale fishing communities and fisher peoples all over the world and indigenous peoples. And I appeal to the governments, especially the United Nations member states, and members of the Committee on World Food Security, first, to recommit to the implementation and monitoring of the instruments that they themselves have ratified. For example, the voluntary guidelines to the right to food, the voluntary guidelines to the securing sustainable small-scale fisheries in the context of food security, the United Nations Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UN. And I also call upon the member states to assume responsibility and stop the voluntary approach to implementation and monitoring of instruments that they have ratified. Because in doing so, they have given themselves the leeway to choose to implement or not to implement, to choose when to implement or what bits of the instrument that they want to implement. So the government must assume responsibility and either they commit to doing what they are proposed to do or stop doing anything. Member states should also generate hands-on solutions that put people at the center and those that respect and integrate cultures, traditional knowledge, and respect and take care of the environment. Right to food realization requires not only giving attention, but also assurance through law and policy to those marginalized in society and likely to have their rights violated. So deep and long histories of injustices, structural administration have left the small-scale fishing communities and indigenous peoples and other marginalized groups in situations of exclusion, poverty, and marginalization that impact and hinder their ability to realize their right to food, their right to food. For small-scale fishers and fishing communities to achieve their food security, issues that are pertinent and issues that displace them, such as ocean, lake, and land grabbing, and more so natural resources grabbing by implementing mega projects. Like in my area, we have like mega wind power projects, mega hydroelectric power projects that have blocked the water. Actually, the only tributary or river, the Omo, that brings the water into the Turkana, and they have used it for production of power, mega projects, and they are also using the same for irrigation schemes in our neighboring country, Ethiopia. Privatization of the natural resources that are the backbone of food production by small-scale and family food producers must stop. Lastly, there is no realization of food security without the realization of human and people's rights. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Azhar Sain. I facilitate the women's constituency at the civil society mechanism of the Committee on Food Security. And I come from Pakistan. The organization in which we are represented here is the International Women's Alliance. My sisters before me have put forward many atrocities that are part and parcel of today's situation. And I will now just focus on women, the women of the world, and our situation currently. We would really like to contextualize the importance of and emphasize on women's rights, people's rights. To food, the right to food is the center of all life. It is unfortunate that the recently report of the FAO, the SOFI 2018, has again talked about increasing hunger from even last year. So now, people who are suffering from hunger has gone up to 821 million, and 60% of these are women. It's tragic that nearly half of all deaths in children under 5 is based on hunger. 151 million children suffer from starvation. These tragic conditions are not by chance, and these are human-made, man-made. I would like to emphasize man-made. The oppression and exploitation embedded in structures of patriarchy, in globalization, feudalism, which is rampant in many parts of the world, and of course, militarizing. Militarism is an increasing phenomenon across the world, and I, coming from Pakistan, understand militarism very well. I understand what it can do to the bodies of women and children, to the bodies of the people, and being torn by bombs not being result hunger is also a major result of it. And no doubt, of course, food insecurity is because of the chemical nature, agrochemical nature of food production, which is a profit-driven praise mechanism, asking for agrofuels. You talked about wind energy, and Pakistan is dampened with agrofuels, with the growing of sugarcane and other forms of crops, which yield so-called ethanol, so that cars and vehicles in the north can have octane. And we go without food. We believe that the answers to these problems lies in the frameworks developed by the people, and these frameworks are well known. We call them food sovereignty, and we ask for widespread, absolute implementation of agroecology. Women across the world, through their struggles to attain equality and equity, provide holistic answers, solutions to overcoming the global crisis. I remind you that even though 70%, even though 50% or more of the women are responsible for cultivation, 70% go hungry. We make up 43% of the agriculture labor force, with majority in Asia and Africa. We make up 2/3 of the 400 million livestock caretakers. So in agriculture, whether it is the indigenous people, the fisheries, or the smallholders, women really dominate the scene. And recently, the SDGs also talked about the right to food in the context of women, asking for ensuring women's right to land, to resources, and to eliminate discrimination. We at the CSM, the civil society mechanism, the women's constituency has come up with a very holistic answer, solution to the catastrophes that have been under, I've kind of detailed, not detailed, just commented on. So our answers are, first of all, of course, the right to land. The GR, the General Recommendation of 34, talks about the right to land and the rights of rural women. We believe that first and foremost, to recognize, fulfill, and protect women's rights is necessary if we are asking for food security. We demand and we promote specific public policies that will nourish and promote the production and marketing of safe, nutritious food based on traditional practices of local communities, of indigenous communities, and promote agroecology. We believe that public policy will also allow flourishing of women's basic rights, such as the right to land, right to territory, seeds, forests, access to water, and other natural resources. We also, I repeat myself, we also have to address, of course, the root causes of food insecurity that I've just talked about: globalization, industrialization, patriarchy, and capitalism. All of that has to be done while honoring the central role of women's knowledge in production and preserving and promoting biodiversity. Recognized as workers. So we want women workers' rights to be recognized, especially in the context that women face sexual distribution of labor and are left to not only work in the fields, in the fisheries everywhere, but also then go back home and look after the elderly, look after the children, and everything that is based in what we call the family. So in the end, I would like to just say that we believe that it is the movements of the world. It is the women, the youth, the indigenous people, the consumers, that we have the most holistic, grounded answers to the catastrophes that face us. And tomorrow, more than 300 people from across the world, from many different diverse backgrounds, will be here to once again understand and contribute our positions, our understanding of the world's catastrophe. So tomorrow we will start the first day of the civil society mechanism contributions, and we will be here for the next 2 days doing that. And of course, from there we will go to the committee on the World Food Security Strategy. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course.
Because now that the CFS is starting next week, which are your main requests? You have already said some of them, but I don't know how you want to convince governments to pay more attention to these issues, because for the last years since the reform of the CFS, you have been more involved. Maybe you have to be even more involved. So I don't know how you are trying to take your opinions on it.
Well,
there is another question that should I read it?
yeah.
Just read a question that arrived on. Can you explain the linkages between militarism and growing hunger rates?
Of course, militarism.
Okay, so I respond then first to the question here, and then you respond to the question that was placed. Right? Well, the contribution of the civil society mechanism in the plenary of the Committee for Food Security will be finalized together with all the other civil society organizations and groups who are going to meet in the forum in the next 2 days. There were some preliminary discussions in the coordination committee of the civil society mechanism in the past 2 days, and for us it's important that in the committee we continue we continue to work on monitoring and application of all these policy guidelines that were negotiated in the past years. For the moment, it looks like this responsibility is not going to continue in a very strong way. So our interest is going to focus in this direction to amplify the responsibility and the monitoring and evaluation of implementation of the various policy guidelines, through activities in the intersessional period, through future global thematics events, because they will continue every 2 years, and we will prepare for that. We will push for more involvement of the governments. We want to work with them. We don't want to work against them. We're many times in a situation where we have to defend the poor and the food producers and the malnourished from governments who seem to speak on behalf of corporations and on behalf of other interests than ours. But this is not the world we want to build. We want to build a world where we work together, because government's main role is to represent us. And yeah, we believe that this space is really providing us the opportunity to work together. And we probably need more time to get there, but we believe that it's possible. And in the future priorities of the committee in the coming years, we discussed a lot about agroecology as being something where we think it would englobe many issues we care about. The issue of seeds, of transfer of knowledge, innovation, because actually smallholders, peasants, pastoralists, fisher folks, women, they are innovators. We've been innovators in food production, in agriculture, since thousands and thousands of years, and we are willing to share that, to broaden this framework of innovation within agroecology. And of course, there are many emerging issues that have been recognized by the high-level panel of experts through their through their past report, and there's a list of emerging issues that we try to promote in the committee and to enhance it. Many issues are there, and the conflicts is of course one of the concerns, one of the raising aggravating issues. But the final, the final articulation will have to include this common work in the forum with other civil society organizations. Yeah. Now maybe Asra, if you want to take on the question.
The question was, what are the differences between food insecurity and militarization? Militarization, to look at Yemen, Libya, in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, I don't think there is any doubt what happened. Militarization basically means that all human rights are put on hold. Military forces will ensure that you cannot raise your voice. Your land are occupied. You are forcefully evicted from land. You cannot produce. I can actually quote directly from a farmer in the northern areas of Pakistan. The whole area is called Heath, Lower Heath. They were not allowed to grow crops. They said terrorists will hide in the crops. So for nearly 2 to 3 years, they could not grow crops because of course crops go high and people can hide in there. They were not even, it was funny, I mean, they were not being allowed to use urea because urea has the components of what is gunpowder. So they stopped all provision of, which is actually good for us. We would promote that. But those farmers are all dependent on these very toxic chemical forms and fertilizers. Women are affected from under such terrible circumstances. Millions of women walked all the way from up on the mountains down to the cities because so-called terrorists were hiding in those areas. And after they were evicted, the military walked in and took control over the land. Those women have not been able to go back to access that land. Some of the most rich nuts grow in those areas. Absolutely, very, very valuable nuts grow in those areas. The entire forests have been taken over by the government. Although those were common land and they were held by the people over the centuries. So I can actually go on and on. I'm not talking about even the suffering of people whose bodies are torn by the bombs, who face a lot of just direct oppression and direct military farmer. I'm talking about people who were forced to leave the land and do that. If my colleagues from Palestine would have been here, from the Philippines would have been here, from Indonesia, it's the same story over and over again. Livestock is just ambushed. I talked to some women in the hilly areas. They told us because there was a curfew, they could not come out of those areas. These are very, very isolated areas. In the end, they had to cut up their livestock. You know, one thing which people will never do, farmers will never do, is cut their livestock. That's a lifeline, that's their bank, that's their surety against any kind of an emergency in the household. And they were weeping. They said we could not go out to get fodder for our animals. And so what do we have to do? In the end, we also had no food for ourselves. So it was better to not see them just die of hunger. We ate the animals ourselves. There are many, many, many stories directly from women's mouths of how they have suffered during militarization, but I think I have to use them.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we can conclude here, unless you want to have a closing remark, Margarita and Christiana. But yeah, maybe we could also conclude now. And thank you very much for the being here. And yeah.